Tragedy behind the glitter. Queen Elizabeth II's tiara journeyed from disaster to crown. But the real story of how it happened turned out to be nothing like what everyone's used to hearing. What tragedy lies behind this sparkle? What disaster is connected to the crown? And what's the actual truth about Elizabeth's tiara? What you're about to discover will change how you see this story. Picture this. You're preparing for the wedding of the century. The dress is picked, the date is set, the whole world is watching your every move. And suddenly, everything falls apart in an instant. That's exactly what happened to the December 1891 engagement that was supposed to be the start of a fairy tale for Princess Mary of Teck. The young woman, affectionately called May by her family, was the daughter of one of Queen Victoria's cousins. In December of that year, she received a proposal from Prince Albert Victor himself, the future King of Great Britain. It seemed fate had smiled upon her. The engagement announcement echoed across the empire. But the happiness didn't last. Just weeks after the engagement was announced, her fiancé suddenly passed away from influenza. May was left alone, without her future husband, without a crown, without the life she'd already started to imagine. And then something interesting happened. The new heir to the throne became the deceased prince's younger brother, Prince George, Duke of York. And in the spring of 1893, something no one expected occurred. Prince George proposed to May, the very same May who had been his late brother's fiancée. Imagine those feelings, continuing the royal line, but with a different person, accepting a proposal from the brother of the one she was planning to love her entire life. May agreed. On the 6th of July, 1893, the couple married in the royal chapel at St. James's Palace. The ceremony was magnificent. Gifts poured in from every corner of the empire. But one of them stood out especially. And here a new character enters our story. Lady Eva Greville led an unusual committee, a group of young women from Great Britain and Ireland. They decided to give the bride a special gift that would be remembered forever. The women started a fundraising campaign, each contributing her share to create something grand. The money collected was enough to purchase, in June of 1893, a magnificent tiara from the famous jeweler Garrard. It was adorned with 14 pearls, each gleaming with purity and perfection. The piece was named Girls of Great Britain and Ireland, after those very young benefactors who raised the funds. But during the making of the tiara, an event occurred that shook all of Britain. The battleship HMS Victoria sank off the Mediterranean coast. The disaster claimed the lives of more than 350 sailors. News of this horror swept across the empire in days. The entire country plunged into mourning, and Lady Eva's committee had collected more funds than needed to purchase the tiara. What to do with the surplus? Records from that time show an amazing act. May personally requested that the remaining money be directed to a fund supporting the widows and children of the lost sailors. So the joy of a royal wedding intertwined with national grief, and the tiara became not just an ornament, but a symbol of compassion. The next owner changed the fate of this treasure. Although the newly made Duchess of York didn't wear the tiara on her own wedding day, she quickly understood. This wasn't just jewelry. This was something greater. May began appearing in the tiara at the most significant events. In 1897, the legendary Devonshire House Ball took place. High society gathered to show off their finest outfits and jewels. May chose the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara and wore it as part of her crown ensemble. Photographs from that evening captured her in all her magnificence. 5 years passed. 1902 brought the coronation of King Edward VII. At this ceremony, filled with splendor and solemnity, May again chose this very tiara. It became her talisman, her favorite ornament, her faithful companion on the path to greatness. But the most important part lay ahead. In 1912, May herself became Queen Mary. Shortly after the coronation, she was photographed in the tiara and the ceremonial mantle of the Order of the Garter. The image traveled around the world, a symbol of a new era, a new reign. 2 years later, in 1914, Queen Mary made an unexpected decision. She summoned craftsmen from Garrod and commissioned them to radically alter the tiara. The 14 pearls adorning the upper part of the treasure were removed. In their place, 13 diamonds were installed. Light began to play differently, sharper, brighter, cooler. The pearls weren't wasted. The Queen used them to create an entirely new tiara called Lover's Knot. And then something interesting happened. Around the same time, the tiara's base was removed. Now the jewel could be worn 2 ways, at full height or separately, as a bandeau across the forehead. This flexibility gave the Queen more options for creating her looks. Documents reveal an unexpected turn. In the 1920s and 30s, Queen Mary was often photographed in the shortened version of the tiara without the massive base. She preferred this lighter, more elegant option. And now we come to the main part, November 1947. Queen Mary made a decision that would forever change the tiara's fate. She gave it to her granddaughter, Princess Elizabeth, as a wedding gift. Imagine that moment. An elderly queen passing on a treasure she wore at her coronation, at balls, during the most important moments of her life. And receiving it is a young woman who doesn't yet know that in a few years she'll become one of the greatest monarchs in history. Elizabeth accepted the gift with deep gratitude. As a sign of appreciation and love, she began calling the diadem Granny's tiara, a simple, homey name for such a majestic thing. But in that simplicity lay special warmth. Along with the tiara itself, Elizabeth received the detachable bandeau base. Now she could choose exactly how to wear this treasure. The real turning point came later. While still a princess, Elizabeth began taking the tiara with her on trips. In 1951, she embarked on a royal visit to Canada. At a state dinner in Quebec, she appeared in Granny's tiara. Guests were enchanted. Cameras clicked non-stop. And then something happened that turned this tiara into the most recognizable royal jewel on the planet. In 1952, Elizabeth ascended to the throne. She became Queen Elizabeth II. And in the first months of her reign, something remarkable occurred. Portraits of the young queen in the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara began appearing everywhere. Stamps in every post office. Coins in every wallet. Banknotes in every bank. Around the world, in every corner of the British Empire and Commonwealth, people saw this image. Millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people recognized the young monarch by this very tiara. It became an inseparable part of her image, a symbol of a new era, the face of an entire generation. A decade later, the situation changed. In the late 1960s, Queen Elizabeth made an important decision. It was time to reunite the bandeau base with the main part of the tiara. Craftsmen performed delicate work. When the 2 parts came together, the tiara regained its full, majestic height. It became taller, more massive, more imposing. The diamond sparkled with renewed force, reflecting light in all directions. From that moment, the Queen adopted a rule for herself: to wear the tiara only in full form, never again separating it into parts. This was the final transformation of the jewel. Photographs captured an important moment. In 1989, during a visit to Singapore, the Queen appeared in the full version of the tiara. The size and brilliance of the ornament made an unforgettable impression. This was no longer that modest diadem of 1893. This was a creation that had passed through decades of changes and reached its perfect form. The key moment arrived in the final years of Elizabeth II's reign. The Queen had a collection of many tiaras, each with its own history, its own character, its own purpose. But in the later years of her reign, Elizabeth increasingly chose Granny's tiara. It became one of the few diadems the Queen wore regularly. Why? Perhaps it was about the connection between generations, from great-grandmother to granddaughter. Perhaps it was that special brilliance the tiara acquired after all the modifications. Or maybe it was simply that feeling of home this ornament provided. The Queen wore it to the most significant events. In 2011, she made a historic visit to Ireland. This was the first time a reigning British monarch had visited Irish soil in 100 years, an event of enormous importance requiring both delicacy and majesty. And Elizabeth chose the girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. 3 years later, in 2014, the world marked the 70th anniversary of the Normandy landings. Veterans, heads of state, thousands of people gathered to honor the memory of heroes. At the solemn ceremonies, the Queen again appeared in her beloved tiara. This wasn't just jewelry, this was a witness to eras, a keeper of stories, a symbol of the monarchy's continuity. From the tragic engagement of 1891 to the celebrations of the 21st century, the tiara passed through everything. And now, the truth about what happened next. Queen Elizabeth II left this world in September 2022. Her reign lasted 70 years, longer than any other British monarch. And what became of the tiara? October 2023 brought the answer. At Mansion House, the residence of the Lord Mayor of London, a special reception was held. Guests gathered in the ceremonial halls, cameras were ready to capture every moment. And into the hall walked Queen Camilla, wife of King Charles III. On her head sparkled the girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. This was the first time the late Elizabeth's daughter-in-law had appeared in this legendary ornament. The circle closed. From the Committee of Young Women in 1893, who collected funds for the prince's bride, to a 21st century queen. From 14 pearls to 13 diamonds, from a detachable base to majestic full height, from stamps and coins bearing the portrait of young Elizabeth to modern ceremonial receptions. The tiara passed through changing eras, world conflicts, technological revolutions, social transformations. It witnessed coronations and celebrations, visits and balls, joy and sorrow. But it remained. It continues to live. Jewels don't age, they only accumulate stories. And the story of the girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara proves true treasures never lose their shine. They're passed down, transformed, acquire new meanings. But the essence remains the same. The connection of generations, memory of the past, and hope for the future. Now this tiara begins a new chapter. What it will be, time will tell. The tragedy of the naval disaster truly touched the tiara, but not at all in the way you might think. The young bride directed the surplus funds to the families of the lost sailors. There it is, true royal dignity, not in the glitter of stones, but in the nobility of actions. Amazing, isn't it? If this story moved you, leave a like below, it helps the channel. Hit the red button so you don't miss new investigations, and turn on notifications. There are many more stories ahead that will turn out to be nothing like they seem at first glance. Until next time.